Welcome back. We come back to you with breaking news right now. We've been following a protest through the city of Hartford. It started at the state capitol, then went to the Hartford Police Department. Fox 61's Brian Didlake joining us now with the next step for that protest. Brian, we're hearing that they are on the highway. You're right outside of our building here. What can you tell us? Quite a scene behind you here.
Been out of the blue. Protesters went ahead and came outside, and they're on the highway right now. I'm gonna go ahead and get out the way so you can see what's happening behind me. Protesters went onto the highway near exit 48, as you can see, and are saying Black Lives Matter. We're on the side where it's safe. We did just talk with state police, who told us to stay over here because, you know, this again, protesters did not plan this, from what I understand, when talking with some of the organizers. But from what we're looking at right now, the entire interstate is shut down on 84 near exit 48. Traffic at a standstill. And I do want to point out that police did not stop them coming on to the highway, but they are still remaining calm, allowing them to speak, allowing them to have a voice. And we've seen this past weekend again in Bridgeport, in New Haven, in Waterbury, where people came onto the highway to go ahead and shut it down and have their voices heard, saying that, again, Black Lives Matter for no peace and no justice. And as you can see, there is no peace and there is no justice from what protesters are saying right now. Again, this is breaking just now. This has just happened right before we came on air. I know some of the people saw this happening as it was happening on our Fox 61 app and our mobile websites that we have going on right now. But again, this is just happening right now. They're chanting right now and speaking in front of the crowd. Traffic has come to a complete standstill. Manny, go ahead and show us what's happening with our traffic right now. We have an 18-wheeler, plenty of trucks, plenty of families, one person getting out of the car to take a picture. And we even have protesters on the other side. Manny, come over here and look and show them the protesters who did not agree with them coming out into the highway, saying that this was not supposed to happen and that this was a separate part of the protest that was not planned, because they had agreed to walk down Albany Avenue with the Hartford mayor and other officials that were going to walk with them as well. So again, Manny, go ahead, turning all the way back to the protesters. Right now, some are taking a knee. So we're watching them take a knee right now, putting their fist in the air and screaming again, Black Lives Matter. So we're going to keep monitoring the situation from a safe distance, and of course talking with police as we see what's going to happen next. But for right now, we are live in Hartford. Brian Didlake, Fox 61 News.
Hey Brian, can you? Okay, I guess we're going to be moving on here. We want to get over the roads. Rachel Lutzker keeping an eye on traffic. Rachel, other than that major delay on 84 outside of our windows here, what are you seeing?
You know, this is what we've been looking at right now that is really causing a big headache. And throughout the afternoon, we've seen state police vehicles kind of parked along I-84 just as a precaution in case this is the situation that happened. And that's what we're looking at right now. So as we take a look at I-84, traffic is at a standstill. We saw it, Brian, there that folks were onto the highways, and you can see what this is doing to the drive right now. First on the westbound side of 84. Now people are getting on at High Street, right along High Street, the Main Street area. And this is both on the east and westbound sides of 84. So 84 westbound at a standstill moving through downtown. Obviously, it is closed to traffic right now, and you can see on the eastbound side what this is doing to traffic, which is now stretching in close to West Hartford on the eastbound side between exits 44 and 46. The on and off ramps right now at High Street, that's where folks are entering and exiting the highway. And certainly just give yourself time if you do have to travel through Hartford. If you are traveling onto I-84 right now, just know that both sides of the highway at the moment are closed. With that as well, this is also starting to affect the southbound side of I-91, which is starting to back up in the right lane down to the 84 interchange. Ben, back over to you.
All right, Rachel, thanks. I want to get back out to our team coverage of Brian Didlake. Brian, can you hear me right now?
I can.
Okay, so we saw just a little while ago that state police had several on and off ramps blocked to prevent this exact situation from happening. You drove by those a while ago. Talk to me right now about the police presence. Obviously, this was not planned, as you said. An extremely dangerous situation being on the highways here, as Commissioner Ravella mentioned, at the Capitol. But I'm not seeing many police right now behind you. What are you seeing?
So, Manny, go ahead to turn around all the way. So I'm going to show you what we're seeing right here. So we do have police, like we were talking about earlier before we came live, and as we were planning our team coverage today, you can see behind other media crews that are out here. State police were out here, but they did not stop them. And Manny, if you go over here and zoom into where our protesters who did not agree with this, there's even more state police over there. And again, yes, as you were talking, Ben, this was very dangerous. Traffic was still moving. I do want to reiterate that traffic was still moving when these protesters came out and stopped traffic. Now, Manny, go ahead and go back over here. We are seeing police who have come out and now have a bigger presence on the highway. So again, we see two on the, I want to say the eastbound lane, and then we have several on the westbound lane where we see, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 squad cars, and they're diverting traffic, man. If you look and see, where we can see them trying to divert traffic to go around and back down the highway and get off of it so they can clear it, so to allow protesters to come into the interstate and, you know, have their message heard. So again, as we were saying, Ben, this was not planned. And so again, we're just still going to be out here monitoring the situation, but, you know, back to you.
Brian, we're gonna stick with you here because obviously we want to keep the shot up as long as we can. This is undoubtedly an extremely dangerous situation, and this is the exact situation, Brian, that we've been talking about all weekend long, that we've been trying to keep from going on. We saw protesters on the I-95, I-91 interchange in New Haven over the weekend, on Route 8, on Route 34, and again, as you said, state police cruisers parked in place to prevent this. You've been out there at the state capitol at Hartford Police. You spoke with Mayor Bronin. Have you talked to any of these protesters, Brian, over the weekend and even today? Some of the behind you, as we see state troopers over your, I believe it's your left shoulder, trying to get on that on-ramp and disperse this crowd. What have these protesters said to you? You know, this is the situation that we could see as nightfall comes. Even though Mayor Bronin said that this has been peaceful so far and that the city is doing everything in its power to refrain from a violent protest, this is the situation that, and we hate to say this, but this is the type of situation that really spurs that type of violence when it comes to dispersing a crowd.
I definitely hear what you're saying, Ben, but I do want to go ahead and just tell you just trying to, I do apologize for that language that was just displayed just now. We do not condone that language on our airways, but nonetheless, when we were talking earlier with protesters, they did at one point try to incite more violence at the Capitol, but immediately protesters who organized the event, I want to say this again, who organized the event told them, no, this is not happening. We are not other states. We are not other cities. We are Connecticut. We are Hartford. We will not be doing this at all. And then all of a sudden they went to the Hartford Police Department. That's where we ended up meeting Mayor Luke Bronin, and he talked with them, came out in the middle of the crowd and had a conversation. And then all of a sudden, we heard some protesters who were in the crowd say, hey, let's go shut down the highway. And then that's where we are here now. Now, I do want to reiterate, because since I was the one that walked with protesters in Bridgeport who went all the way and shut down I-95 near Exit 3 and went all the way now to McLeavy Green in Bridgeport. Now, during that time, it was still a very fluid and dangerous situation when we were walking with protesters. But, you know, the message that was there in Bridgeport all the way across the state here in Hartford is the same. And that's anger that's being felt in the Black and brown communities when it comes to police violence. Now, even though that this part of the protest wasn't planned, it also shouldn't be, I want to say, it shouldn't be unexpected. Because during this time, you know, we had a lot of emotions being displayed from many people across the state that mirrors what we're seeing nationwide.
Hey, Brian, and, you know, can you just step aside here? Yeah, I just want to zoom in here if we can.
Oh, wow.
If you could just ask Manny to step aside.
I see what you're talking about. Yeah, they're all laying down right now.
Yeah, if we can push into that shot right now. Obviously, this situation, Brian, so dangerous. And as we keep saying, it seems like the shot froze a bit here, but this is all going on both sides of I-84. West and eastbound right now. Brian, I mean, are there any attempts by police that you're seeing right now to stop this? We're seeing that traffic is stopped on both ends, and now, as we saw a little while ago from our traffic cameras, this traffic backup is extending miles past Hartford in each direction, just causing a nightmare on the road right now. State police obviously thought about this happening. They had their cruisers parked in place, and as we're seeing these protesters stepping up on the median, running across the highway. And by the way, just to give all of you at home a little bit of context, even a woman seems to be in a wheelchair there on an off-ramp. This is all going on right outside of our window here in downtown Hartford on the I-84 west and eastbound, as protesters now are laying in the middle of the roads. Brian, what are you seeing as far as police trying to disperse? Is there any effort to disperse this crowd as we see people on bikes and even a woman in a wheelchair to your right behind you? I mean, what effort is there to stop this?
Honestly, Ben, I don't see any type of effort for them to disperse this crowd. They're allowing them to have their voices heard. There's no sign of aggressions towards protesters right now from state police. They're blocking up the highway. They're letting other people get off of it. They're trying to get the 18-wheelers, which is going to be a bit of a heftier task to allow them to get off of the highway of 84 on both lanes. Right now, the westbound lane has a little bit more movement to it than we see on the eastbound lanes. But again, no one is trying to stop these protesters from being in the middle of the interstate. And I do want to reiterate again, Ben, before we came on, I believe people saw this live on our Facebook page and on our app of them going into the highway while it was moving traffic. But even as they were moving into traffic, they just allowed them to keep on walking, to keep on to keep on moving into the highway. There was no signs of trying to stop them, trying to hinder them at all. So that's what we're seeing out here right now, Ben. So
it looks like protesters are looking on from that off-ramp. That would be exit 48 to get off of Asylum Ave, there. So it seems like, Brian, they're having those cars turn around and get off that on-ramp. Ideally, we could try to get Rachel Lutzker in here if we can eventually, so she can give us a little bit of an outlook to what this nightmare is causing on the highways. Rachel, can you hear me?
Yes, Ben, actually I do, and I can tell you right now that it looks like on the eastbound side of 84. Now, the highway itself is shut down. This is both east and west in the area of exits 48A and B and 49 out by High Street, and that's where these protesters have been heading on to the highway and taking over both directions of the highway. Now, with that, the eastbound side of 84 is starting to back up close to West Hartford. That being said, looks like a lot of traffic is getting off at exit 46, and that's where we seem to have state police kind of planted on the highway there so that folks can exit over to the left onto Sisson Avenue and kind of reroute themselves from there, because obviously with the highway shut down right now, this is impassable for anyone on the eastbound side. Now, the westbound side also starting to stack up, not only through the Hartford Tunnel, which is just a sea of red, kind of those brake lights moving right out to exit 48. This with the delay now coming in off the Bulkley Bridge, so it is a really, really slow go as you're coming in from East Hartford. Another spot, this is starting to back up on 91 as well on the southbound side, where we're starting to look from Jennings Road down to the 84 interchange. Just got word right now that westbound side of 84, I mentioned eastbound was getting off at 46 Sisson Avenue. It looks like westbound traffic is being pulled off the highway onto High Street, and so that's where traffic is going to be moved kind of through downtown just to exit the highway, while all these folks are still on both the east and westbound sides of 84 for right now, Ben.
Rachel, thanks. I want to get back out to Brian Didlake. Brian, as we keep saying, police had an idea that this would be happening. Have you spoken to any law enforcement about their plans about this? I mean, how you were following this protest? How exactly did it go from Hartford Police Department, which is about maybe a quarter mile, half a mile away from this on-ramp, to going into this type of a situation? What did that movement look like as you were following them, Brian?
But even some of the protesters expressed
So that movement looked a little similar. Well, let me start that over real quick, Ben. So they started off walking along Albany Avenue, and then they came to the City Hall, and then they made another turn, went to the Capitol, then to Hartford Police Department, and then they were going to go back to the Capitol, but instead they went into the highway right now. So honestly, at this point, Ben, I don't see any type of organization right now, because from what I understand, when it comes to this protest, from differing it from other protests that I've seen, is that there's only one person that I saw here that was one of the organizers. Everyone else were agitators who wanted to influence the crowd to do something else. So when I talked about earlier about one person or two people trying to get the crowd to do something more violent that we are not wanting at this time, or at any time, excuse me, that's when one of the agitators allowed the crowd, well, not allowed the crowd, influenced the crowd to go into the highway from what we're seeing right now, and many just going and letting people see what we're looking at right now. The only interaction that we had been with any type of police is when they approached us before we went live and said that they would appreciate if we stayed on the median area right after you get off the interstate and stay in the grassy area to be, one, safe, and two, to not involve ourselves within this protest. And of course we agree with that at all times. But from what we're looking at, wait, we might be hearing something. Looking over here, Manny, see my finger point over here. We do have some interaction with police.
Let's stay on this, Brian.
We do have some interaction with police, but I'm not seeing any type of aggression, at least towards the police right now.
What are you seeing, Brian?
You should. Okay, so I'm looking at one person, I believe it was one of the organizers, talking with police, trying to argue with him, saying that they do deserve to be out here, but I think they're trying to negotiate with them to get off the highway at this time. So
yeah, if we could push into that shot, Brian, and just see.
But it's just having a conversation.
You know, right now,
say it again, Ben.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but right now this is still a peaceful protest. There's no violence that you're seeing, just some words exchanged right now with state police. Is that all you're seeing?
Yes, just words being exchanged. Still a protest, still screaming Black Lives Matter.
Have you seen any arrests?
No form of violence, no arrest at all, no arrest at all. So we're still waiting for that. I know just from a timeline perspective, when we were watching protests happening live in New Haven and Bridgeport, it was around 6:30, 7:30 when police tried to start pushing people off of the highway. So since we're not at that time yet, I'm not expecting, from my own point of view of experiencing these protests, statewide, any type of aggression yet, or any type of attempt to get these people off of the highway. So we're just going to sit here and wait to see if we can see anything that newly develops from what we're seeing right now.
And Brian, just an important point here. This could be having serious consequences right now when it comes to emergency situations. This right now is the path to get to St. Francis Hospital. Also, you could be dealing with emergency vehicles trying to get to Hartford Hospital going 84 eastbound. So right now, this road being blocked could be stopping ambulances from getting patients who need to get to St. Francis Hospital to there, because as you and I both know, St. Francis is less than a half a mile away. This is all going on in a critical point. If we can get our photographer, is that Manny, to just push into this shot, to just on a bit here, Brian, just to see what exactly we're dealing with.
Can we zoom in, Manny?
As families, as we're seeing, are walking on and off the on-ramp. If you're just joining us here on Fox 61, if you're just tuning in, we're on past our normal time here. We're taking a live look at Hartford on 84 eastbound and westbound as protesters that gathered around 2 p.m. in downtown Hartford made their way to the on and off ramps on the highway, joined with state police. This whole protest, Brian, and you can add in, jump in whenever, started at the state capitol, happening at the state capitol outside as the governor was giving his press briefing alongside Commissioner James Ravella, talking about the importance of keeping these protests peaceful, talking about the measures that police have been taking here in the state.
One moment, Ben.
Go ahead, Brian.
One moment, Ben. I'm sorry. So when it comes to the other side of the highway, it was filled with cars. From what I'm seeing now, one of the last cars, an 18-wheeler, is attempting to turn around. And it looks like at this point, they're going to be shutting the highway down. But for our meteorologist back in the building, was there any rain in the forecast? I'm sorry if I missed it earlier, but it is starting to get windy out here. The clouds are darkening, so that does have a weather element that came into place, because unlike the other 2 or 3 days that we saw protest, rain wasn't an issue. But if rain becomes an issue, we may see them leave and we may not see them leave. It just depends on how big the resolve is right now to have their message heard. But right now, I'm still seeing people come on and off the highway. Some are leaving, saying that this is crazy. Some are going, saying that this is monumental. They want to be a part of it.
Hey, Brian.
So we're just trying to see what's going to be happening right now. So,
Brian, I just want to interrupt you here. We have Trooper Christine JELTEMA on the phone. Trooper, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thank you so much for joining us here. As we're looking live at 84 eastbound and westbound. Talk to me about the safety precautions that go along with this. Obviously, you guys had planned for this with state police cruisers on the on and off ramps, but I mean, what have you been hearing about how this all transpired?
We just know that they wanted to come up on the highway, and for the safety of everybody, we wanted to make sure that we didn't get them up on the highway, especially in this area because this is a off-ramp for St. Francis Hospital, and with the highway being shut down, that's a big concern for us, especially now with rush hour traffic. We want to ensure that medical personnel that need to get to St. Francis Hartford Hospital have the ability to get there, especially ambulances that may be carrying sick and injured individuals. That is a big concern for us. You know, we know that these protesters, they want to be heard. We want to listen to them. We want to have this open dialogue with them. However, we need to ensure the safety of the public. We need to ensure the safety of the protesters. We need to ensure the safety of our troopers as well.
Trooper, obviously the one topic that many people have been discussing as we look live at the backup this is creating in downtown Hartford, where 84, 91, 84 East and West both meet, is the use of force. Obviously, this has been peaceful so far, no arrests, no use of force, but talk to me about what needs to be done in order to keep the peace and maintain this, this environment that we're seeing right now.
Just a dialogue. Again, we know these protesters, they want to be heard. They want their voice to be heard. They want to talk about their feelings, get their expressions out as well. It's their First Amendment right, and we want to ensure that they are able to do that safely, peacefully. Again, our biggest concern is those that need to get to these hospitals, especially since this is a big area for St. Francis.
And what's the plan going forward? I mean, we're seeing over 100 or 200 people, maybe even 300, 400 on the highway right now, these protesters. And it seemed to be that this large crowd, Trooper, has moved through Hartford with ease, going from the state capitol to Hartford Police Department. What's the plan going forward into the night as nightfall comes our way here?
So those are decisions that are going to have to be through our leadership. Our leadership is in the area. They're monitoring this closely. And again, based on the safety of everybody and the concerns of the getting to the hospital, you know, those will play into factors on how we're going to be able to disperse these protesters. You
know, over the weekend, Trooper, we saw similar situations in New Haven on Route 8, the I-91-95 interchange there in the Elm City. Talk to me about how did those situations disperse, and how did those tensions ease? Was that all through communication, and what does that communication look like when you're dealing with a protester who's angry and who's yelling in a trooper's face? What is that? How important is that communication, and what does that dialogue look like for your troopers?
So the communication is very important. I mean, with anything, communication 101. I listen, you listen, we get each other's feedback, and we come up with solutions. So that's what the conversations are looking like. We obviously have people that are angry. Our troopers are angry about everything that happened. We don't condone it. We do not believe in that. So we want our voices to be heard and allowing the protesters, their voices to be heard, and come up with some common ground. You know, this is the first step, is having that communication, that dialogue. And then the next step is actions. You know, what are we going to do next after this? So we want to, again, ensure that everybody is safe, that this is peaceful. You know, this is our state. These are our communities. And we're here to protect and serve those communities. And we have to do that as a team. We have to have everybody together in order to do that.
Trooper, I don't know if you're watching this right now, but it seems like protesters and state police are locking arm in arm, walking backward on the highway in an effort to show some solidarity. Can you see what I'm seeing right now, Trooper?
Yes, I can see that, and that's amazing, and that's what we are here for. This is what our state police is about. This is an agency that is here to protect and serve and be part of the community.
We're hearing that this is a prayer circle, and right now, Trooper, for those who are watching who are not out at a protest right now, but maybe they're sitting in their living room having dinner and they're watching this all play out on their television screens in their living room. Talk to me and talk to the people of Connecticut right now about the importance of what we're seeing right now. This prayer circle that's happening in the middle of I-84 westbound with protesters who are angry, want to be heard, and first responders in our state who left their families this morning to go out to work and just try to keep all of these people safe. Talk to me about the importance of what we're witnessing right now.
A cultural change has to be collaborative. We have to work together with the communities, with our leadership, with our troopers, all law enforcement across the board. And this is just one sign that we are willing to work with them.
And also, you know, you see these troopers who are wearing their day-to-day uniforms. One thing we're not seeing here, and maybe you can talk to me about the decision for this, we're not seeing batons, we're not seeing shields, we're not seeing helmets, we're not seeing any use of force, and it seems like these protesters are, I want to say walking off the highway, but it seems like this crowd is moving. Talk to me about the decision to keep those troopers in their day-to-day regular uniforms, as layman terms would call it.
So when you show force, that entices force, and that's not what we're about. We're not looking to have anybody hurt. We want this to be peaceful. We have families at home that we want to go to, whereas the protesters do as well. So if we can do that on both ends, it's a win for everybody. And again, the next steps is actions, and we have to come up with some plans together. And it's going to be a team effort, and everybody has to come together and have some agreements and have this cultural change.
And you know, I understand if you have to go, but I just want to stay with you as long as I can to kind of narrate alongside you what we're seeing. We're still seeing protesters sitting on the highway. Did you guys have a plan in place for this? I mean, or is this totally taking you guys by surprise?
We always have a plan for everything that we do. We have contingency plans. We have courses of action for everything. So we don't have the ability to rehearse every single plan of action, but we do have our leadership that are here making the decisions and working together inside the building as well as outside of the building as well. But unfortunately, I do have to get going, so I appreciate you letting us come on air and discuss this with you.
Trooper JELTEMA, we appreciate your time and helping us kind of understand what's going on I-84. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, can Brian still hear me, guys?
Yes, I can, Ben.
All right, Brian, what are you seeing right now? We're seeing this group move and walking together. We're hearing that this is somewhat of a prayer circle between these protesters and state police linking arms. What are you hearing chanted? What are you seeing?
Yes, they're linking arms. They're having a conversation with troopers here on the scene of what we're looking at. And I did at one point see a band of protesters try to get people off of the highway, but again, people aren't leaving because apparently something is going on inside of this circle, this prayer circle, or this conversation circle at this point, to where they are just having a conversation and just talking with each other. So, of course, we're going to be out here just looking at what's going on, but it seems like some people are leaving, some people are still staying, and we still have some people, man, if you look over again, that are still sitting down. So we're trying to see what's going to be happening with those protesters as well. But something I do wonder at this point, Ben, is how long will this last? You know, how long will we impede traffic, and how long will we have to be out here to the point where we did have to make arrests in New Haven and we did have to make arrests in Bridgeport? You know, so at what point are we going to see some type of enforcement of this? But it looks like, you know, this is ending peacefully from what we're looking at. So Manny, if you can just follow people right now, there's a big chunk is winding down and getting off of it. So it looks like the conversation was very well done with police and protesters.
All right, so Brian, we're seeing these protesters go back off the off-ramp. If we could just pull up a map here. Here we have a map of what this exactly, okay, here we go. So this is where this is all happening. You can see in the red and orange where this backup is, where I-84 meets I-91. Right by the Capitol, you can see the Capitol from where we are. That's where this is all going on if you're around the state of Connecticut and not in Hartford right now, just to give you a bit of context. But let's go back out live to this scene and take Manny's shot here so we can see these protesters going back off the off-ramp. We heard of a prayer circle. This all started around 5:45, where protesters walked onto I-84.
That we did see play out on camera and on social media, where some other substances was sprayed at protesters, but that was at the New Haven Police Department, and that's a totally separate incident from what we're seeing here on the highways. But again, when we're talking about what was happening here, playing out live on our airways right now, is something that I haven't seen since this past weekend, and that's having a conversation with protesters, interacting with protesters to the point where, again, they're getting off of the highway in a very expeditious manner from what we've seen in the past. Instead of hours and hours and hours of people staying on the highway, we were here for what, maybe 30 or 40 minutes, and now we're playing this out live to where they're getting off of the highway. So the conversation that was had in the middle of that prayer circle, in the middle of that conversation circle, must have been good enough for people to leave the highway, and it looks like they're going back to the Hartford Police Department. But again, we're going to keep looking at the remaining people who are on the highway still blocking traffic. So that's what's happening right now.
Is there anyone nearby that you can talk to, Brian, and try to get their perspective of what just happened? If you do see anybody, just flag them down, anyone that's willing to talk to you. I mean, obviously people might just be joining us, and there's as we're watching this all play out, and we've watched different protests around the country play out, and different protests around Hartford and our state play out for the past 2 to 3 days, there are many different facets to these protests. There are hundreds and thousands of protesters who are angry and they want to be heard and they want law enforcement to hear them, and they are joining together to make their voices heard, and that's why you see these protests going to places like state capitals, like police departments, like interstate highways right now, to make a stand and to get their voices heard. And then there's another angle to this in which Congresswoman Johanna Hayes spoke about. Her husband is an African-American man who is a member of the law enforcement.
Hey, Ben, we're going to talk to some people right now.
Go ahead.
Just letting you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, guys, you mind talking with us real quick? What's going on in the interstate?
I'm good.
Anybody want to talk with me real quick?
Sure.
Hey, so just let me know, what was the conversation that y'all having on the interstate just now?
We just want our words to be heard. We spoke to the mayor earlier, and we came to an understanding. And we feel like the city should work with us because we got kids, and we feel like our life matters, and the police always take matters into their hands. And we just feel like they should stop killing black people, and they should stop killing immigrants, or they should stop killing American, period. We want this country to be a very great country as it is, because this country groomed us, and we are very excited to work with people, and we want the cops to work with us and understand our pain and stop killing us.
Now, we saw you were holding hands at one point. What was happening with that?
Holding hands together with our people make us feel strong, and we just, like I said, we just wanted our word to be heard. And holding hands, we should try to show the police that as a community, we are united, we stand together, we don't discriminate. Black, white, yellow, green, whatsoever, we all stand together, and we gotta have each other back, and the cops gotta understand that as a community, as a city, they have to work with the population.
You know, having state police hold hands with you guys, how did that make you feel, saying that they do hear you, that they do want to have that conversation?
For me, as a person, I feel like our message that we sent today is heard, and we're gonna be looking into working with them. But today, holding hands with them, we try to show them that we are peaceful people, and they should understand that we are peaceful. And we want them to work with us for a better Connecticut, a better Hartford, and we want them to work with us for a better community, because we're here to raise children, and we work hard, and we want them to do their job, and we're going to always obey them, but they need to stop killing us. That's it.
And then my last question, you know, talking with all our viewers right now, what is that message? Describe to me that message, that hope that we want to have right now.
Right now, the message is, like I said, the way we held hands and we knelt down, we showed them. So the message that we're sending out there is they shouldn't mess with us, because holding hands together make us a strong community. And they got to work with us for the better of Greater Hartford. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're
talking
welcome.
with us.
Thank you very much.
All right, you saw that play out live. So they believe that their message was heard. So right now it is starting to rain a little bit. So again, Manny, if you're going to look over here, the highway is clear. It's clearing up right now. So it should open back up in about, I want to say like 10 or so minutes once people can get back onto the highway and they can clear everything out and resume traffic. But it looks like the conversation that was had on that highway was successful, Ben.
All right, Brian, we do want to go over to Rachel Lutzker right now. Brian, stay put if you can. We'll maybe get back to you in just a minute. But Rachel, we hear that you have a new vantage point of this situation.
Yeah, I want to show you a couple of the traffic cameras that are moving right through downtown. And obviously, we have traffic at a standstill while state police continue to clear the highway here. We are, of course, looking at the closure still of I-84, both east and westbound sides. This is right in the area of exits 48A and B and 49, which is out by High Street. Now, westbound side of 84, that's where traffic was getting off of High Street. And we also had cars starting to turn around in the Hartford tunnel, which certainly not good for traffic. We've got traffic just kind of bunched all in there. And there you see people just reversing the wrong way on I-84. So this obviously a dangerous situation. I have to imagine state police will be getting out there to try and stop these vehicles because driving the wrong way up the shoulder is certainly a way to cause a bigger problem here as far as crashes are concerned. So we've got that situation. Westbound side still heavy off the Bulkley Bridge. Eastbound side, things are starting to loosen up just a little bit. We don't really have the delay back into West Hartford just at this point, but eastbound traffic still pulled off by 46 Sisson Avenue. That's going to be the best way to kind of get around this and move along your way because at the moment, the eastbound side of 84 still blocked off as this continues along I-84 in downtown Hartford. But just again, a lot of traffic still stuck here both sides of the highway, just briefly affecting the southbound side of I-91 as you move down from 33 to 32A and B. It's just that right lane, just the ramp getting onto the highway. Ben.
All right, Rachel, thank you very much. Before we go here, I want to go back out to Fox 61's Brian Didlik. Brian, we're here. First of all, Brian, can you hear me?
Manny, I can hear you.
Okay, so where are you now? We hear that you're walking a bit. This crowd is moving. We're hearing horns. Where'd you go?
So we went off of the highway, off of the off-ramp, excuse me, because we are here in Hartford right now. These are people that are in agreement with what just happened. And of course, you know, we're going to go ahead and walk and talk, Manny. But as we were talking then with protesters, they said that, you know, that their voices were heard. So they're now moving back to the Hartford Police Department to where they're going to continue their protests. But it is raining out here, so that may disperse over time. But right now, their resolve is still strong at this point to where they're going to keep on protesting here at the Hartford Police Department, Ben.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. What we just witnessed on I-84 westbound and eastbound was something that we haven't really seen across the country. We saw state police locking arms with protesters in the middle of the highway as both ends of that highway were shut down. Brian, it looks like he's going to be walking to Hartford Police Department. Our live team coverage will continue tonight. We'll have a full recap of what happened on I-84 westbound and eastbound as you look at the remnants of that protest. It seems like the westbound side is opened up. Eastbound side still bumper to bumper with traffic as traffic starts to slowly move down. But the good news here, from what we could tell, no arrests, no violence. And I think in the coming days, the Connecticut State Police and Hartford Police will be a model for the rest of the country of what you saw, linking arm in arm with protesters in the middle of the highway, ending things peacefully. A full recap tonight on the Fox 61 News at 10 and 11. We'll see you back here then.